We've done all this work for you to understand your pelvis, to understand how to relax and strengthen your pelvis. So, this last lesson is kind of this beginning conversation and some things to think about so that you are not taking away all that work or making it harder for yourself every time that you go to the bathroom. So, this lesson is about bladder control. So, the first question I want you to think about is how often are you going to the bathroom to go pee? And this would be how many times are you going in the day and during the day, and then how many times are you going at night? So, to give you a starting point to think about this, what I'll usually say is you should be able to hold going to the bathroom to go pee about every 3 to 4 hours. So, just kind of check in with yourself. Are you going to the bathroom many more times than that? Or are you going to the bathroom many less times than that? And what we're usually working with is kind of, in particular, women that are on the way off of that, like every 30 minutes to once a day. And we're trying to get back into the middle for every 3 to 4 hours. At night, we usually say 0 to 1 time at night. So same thing. Is that way off for you, or is that about right? Now let's talk about urge. So urge is when you are getting a signal from your bladder that you need to go to the bathroom, that you need to go pee. And let me describe that process, because what happens is this is a function of the internal sphincter. Remember, everything that we were doing with the Kegels is the external sphincter. You have voluntary control of that. This internal sphincter is an autonomic nervous system function. You don't have control. So the best we can do is help you pay attention to those signals and then give you urge suppression techniques if you need them. So here is what the urges could look like, and decide if this is what happens for you. When your bladder is 50% full, it will send that first signal to your brain. Hey, I need to go to the bathroom. You then decide, consciously or unconsciously, I am too busy and I want to wait. I am watching something that I want to finish. I am reading a book I want to finish, or I can't find a bathroom. And you're all set. It's not a big deal. You know how to suppress that urge. When the bladder is 75%, that is usually urge number 2. And that is when you say, oh, right, I had to go to the bathroom. And you're like, I still have a little bit of time. But if I'm out in public, or maybe I'm not sure where the bathroom is, I'm starting to scan to see where the bathroom is. And the last, when you are 90% full in the bladder, you are getting that signal that says, you need to stop. You're about to pee your pants. And we're done talking. You are done watching your TV show, and you run to the bathroom. So kind of decide for yourself, is this a process that you go through right now? If you're trying to gain more control of your bladder, here are some urge suppression techniques that you can work on. The first is positive self-talk, which is similar to what I just talked about, that happens in your brain. You become more aware of who's in control, you or your bladder. And positive self-talk is saying, bladder, I hear you, but I also know that I can wait. So that is something that a lot of women seem to respond to, that is kind of the opposite situation where the bladder is really in control. So it gives them a moment to kind of figure out and pay attention to how much do they really need to go to the bathroom. The second urge suppression technique is distraction. Works wonderfully, as we talked about. If you're watching a TV or you're really into something, you are going to be able to suppress that urge. The third thing that I talk about is breath work. And this is this interesting thing where, I find when women are really caught up in this urge and not having a lot of bladder control, they get very anxious and very nervous when they start to feel an urge. And what I tell them is that your bladder is very finicky. It can really pay attention to how you're feeling. So if you are anxious, your bladder starts to also get anxious. And so if you can bring your breath into a calm place, it calms down the bladder. The next one is heel raisins. This is another kind of weird one, but you have a nerve that starts at the bottom of your foot, goes through your inner thigh up to your bladder, called the posterior tibial nerve. And if you do heel raises, which is like lifting up your heel and kind of pressing on your foot, it sends signals up to your bladder to kind of close and not let anything leak out. And then the last one that we talk about is quick flicks. So we practiced those before. That's when you're kind of using that external sphincter to open, close, open, close. And so that, again, when it's closed, the bladder is getting the signal not to leak. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is your diet. Now, there are irritants, which many women are sad about because they're things that we really enjoy. So it's our caffeine and our carbonation. So your coffee, your caffeinated teas, your sodas, your sparkling waters, your chocolate, anything acidic, alcohol. These all can irritate the bladder lining. So that the acidity goes into the bladder and the lining doesn't like it. And so it then says, I need to get this liquid out as soon as possible. And that is why you have urge. So what I say to women is it's up to you. Like, if you cannot live without your coffee in the morning, no, you're probably going to the bathroom in 30 minutes. So you have to decide, and you can also experiment with to see if that's how your particular bladder responds. But again, have awareness that there are irritants. If they're in your diet, they are causing you to have more urge. The last piece, which most women know, is that you want to have a lot of water. Usually we'll say half your body weight in ounces, and you can decide. It's very much like fluid in, fluid out. So if you do not have a lot of fluid, you are not giving yourself any favors. You want to have a good amount of fluid and water in your system, both for your digestion and for good bladder health. So that is the initial conversation I usually will have with a woman about bladder health. And so let's move on to bowel health.